there anything you guys are interested in, if I were to make like another YouTube video? I just kind of started a YouTube, or like uploading to my YouTube, I guess, last week. Is there anything you guys are curious about? Tier list? I got a class tier list or a dungeon tier list? Alright, you guys want a tier list? We can do a tier list. Alright, by popular demand. Alright, big tier list. By popular demand. Let's take a look. I'll give you my read on it. I don't think it's going to be too much different than what a lot of people read, but I'll try to do all the classes because I think I've seen pretty much all of them. How do I make a new layer? Add row below. No clue. Let's call this likely nerfs. If not, then meta. Call this strong. Seems okay. Not great. Ditch. Alright. I guess we'll start with the tanks, because people want to know about the tanks. So my personal read... I think these two are my top two picks. Probably in this order. So I think Vengeance is really good with the meta DPS that I'll go over here in a bit, but it's kind of the same situation. Really good with Mage, really good with Lock, really good with Hog-Evoker. If DK ends up being a meta DPS, then it's really good with them. Just overall really good, really high damage. Prot Paladin needs a lot of healing. However, their damage is insane. I don't know if you guys have seen like Dorky doing damage on this class, but sometimes he bursts like 4 or 5 million in big packs. I think their damage keeps them really competitive. If those two aren't meta, it's probably Blood Decay, and where's Brewmaster? Light Blind. Brewmaster. So these two don't do as much damage, and they're not really giving any buffs. I mean, obviously you have like melee buff, but low melee and plus. But these two are just like really self-sufficient, and you don't really need an insane healer to keep them going. So I think these are fine if you want to play them. Good for you. No issues there. I think they'll get a lot of good play. Warrior's pretty good too. Actually, I'm going to put Warrior there. I know Sense was just hanging out, but I think Warrior is really strong from what I've seen and what I've healed. You don't really have to heal Warrior. It just kind of lives. Spell Reflect is pretty good. Is this overall or M+, like high keys? Yeah, this is like M+ high keys. That's primarily where I do my content. Sue says don't get their hopes up. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like no one ever plays Warrior, but Warrior is just always able to do the highest keys, and it just is like super underrepresented. So I think it's fine. I think tank balance in general is like really good right now. I am missing a tank, dude. Where is it? Which one am I missing? Bear. Dude, I don't know. I probably should have labeled these a little bit different. Bears definitely seems okay, but it's definitely worse than these. I guess I'll leave it here because it does seem okay. It needs more healing than I think everything else. Its damage is pretty good. I mean, obviously it brings Mark of the Wild. I think I definitely put it at the back end, though. It's, for being Bear, it definitely needs more healing than the rest. Alright, let's look at healers. So for healers... I think the top one for me is... Where is it at? I think the top one for me is Resto Shaman. I don't think it needs to be nerfed. I think it's in a good place. Mastery buff is really nice. I think the melee part of the buff is nice as well. Just the... it's like the replacement for Wind Fury, but I think that's actually really strong. Also, when they heal people, they get a big increased health pool for a while. That seems really nice. In my opinion, that kind of takes the place of Mark of the Wild. You obviously don't get the damage from it, but you do get the mastery plus the extra health. So I think Resto Shaman's really strong. And I think if you're going to bring any Shaman, I think you prefer to have Resto Shaman at the moment. Preservation, actually, I put up here as well. I think Prez is really strong. I think I'm probably, out of everyone that's doing a tier list, I probably rate Prez the highest. Their healing is absurd. They actually have like insane throughput. And it's all super bursty too. So if you're thinking like last boss of Court of Stars, or not Court of Stars, City of Threads, I don't know why I was thinking that. I guess it's kind of the same dungeon, but City of Threads, where you're just having to like heal people up in like 3-second increments in between mechanics. Like Prez just does an insane job of doing that. Probably better than most of the healers. And a lot of people are hyping up Holy Paladin right now, but I think Prez probably heals a bit more than them, and they probably do about the same amount of healing. I think that having, Zephyr, and if you bring an Augavoker, I think having 2 Zephyrs is not an issue. TD being a 1-minute cooldown versus like Sack being 150, or 130 rather. Plus you can reduce TD if you take a talent. It's pretty good. Please no, not another VDH season. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it will be or not. I just generally think it's strong. It does require healing, though. Maybe it requires too much healing for the average group. I think in the average group, maybe you just go with one of these choices here. But anyways, yeah, back to healers. I think Prez is pretty strong. Holy Paladin, where they're at. Holy. There we go, Holy Paladin. They're strong. They're for sure strong. I think they're behind Prez, personally, but I'm not going to argue. It seems like every healer that's like a healer main is swearing by Holy Paladin, and I don't really have any issues with them. Apparently they're really easy to heal on. They do pretty good damage. It doesn't seem to matter if you're melee or range at the moment, so yeah, Holy Paladin, pretty good choice. H-Priest, it doesn't seem that great. Their damage is okay. I feel like every time I have an H-Priest in the group, it's not a super great experience. I don't really have much more to say on that. They just, yeah, Fortitude I guess is nice. Power Infusion's nice. Maybe it's like an item level difference. But yeah, doesn't feel too great. Disc Priest, also not great. I played with one earlier, and they did surprisingly well in Necrotic Wake, but I also think Necrotic Wake isn't like a super healing intensive dungeon. So yeah, I don't know. Not a great take, or not a great read, I guess, on it, but I think in general it's like okay. Am I missing any healers? Yeah, Mistweaver. Yeah, Mistweaver. No clue. Haven't seen one. Which is like kind of surprising. It probably means it needs some buffs. But yeah, I haven't really seen it. When I ask people about it, people say it's just like a worse Holy Paladin. Oh yeah, Ardruid, obviously. Let's see, Ardruid. There it is. I'm like really torn on Ardruid. So the thing is, they have the highest damage if they can do nothing but damage. And it's like not even close. Like they just gap like literally everyone in damage, but their healing is kind of bad. And I think season 1 is a healing intensive season, so I'm going to put them in seems okay. From what I understand, it's like all regrowth is their healing, which if you're an Ardruid player feels really bad. I think if you're able to sit in cat form and just do damage, it's pretty fun. I know Seraphine, he's a friend of mine, he's been playing a lot with me. He's been trying really hard to make it work, and he goes into Missature to Scythe and Necrotic Wake, and he loves playing it in there, but outside of those 2 dungeons, I think he's just like full despair, so I'm gonna put it in Seems Okay. I think it's, you know, if you need Mark of the Wild, it's probably an option, but you're probably gonna have a pretty grumpy healer. So yeah, let's get the obvious out of the way. So Aug Evoker, likely nerfed. If not, then meta. I don't actually think they'll probably get nerfed again. That's probably not a right caption. I think they're actually about as balanced as they can be without being bad. I don't think, especially like going later into this season, I don't think they're going to be the top DPS. And so everyone was saying for a long time, and it was true, in fact. Let me do this. Let me just pull this on my other monitor for a second. Prep logs. So let me see. Here's just some random logs. So here's an Ogle's key, 2nd place. Dawnbreaker, Sang in 1st place. Actually, these might have been all Sang keys. Ogle's 3rd place. But you can see that, like, some of these other quote-unquote good DPS, Aug is essentially keeping up with, but you've got some outlier DPS that are always like 300 or 400k ahead of them. And I think that maybe at the end of the season, there'll just be like 3 or 4 good DPS that are just straight up 400k better than Aug. And, you know, if the dungeons actually need damage, then you'll just end up bringing the 3 of those. So I don't think Aug is like a spectacular DPS, but at least on beta, it's like keeping up with the quote-unquote good DPS. So I think Aug has strong damage, but for obvious reasons, right? It keeps your tank alive, gives your healer more main stat, lets them heal more. It actually gives them mana, which is kind of a big deal on beta. Yeah, I think Aug is really strong. At least at the beginning of the season, I expect a lot of people to be playing it, and maybe no one will experiment enough to like drop it, which is, you know, always something that could happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if you could just run 3 like Frost DK, Frost Mage, Warlock, right? 3 of those DPS are all pretty sturdy and they can kind of live on their own. So I wouldn't be surprised if you get in a situation where you can just end up playing those 3 DPS instead. But I think the general perception, and I definitely think that Aug is good. So I'm going to leave it there, kind of with everyone else. But yeah, it's good. If you want to play Aug, definitely play Aug. If you want to try to run 3 really hard-hitting DPS, I won't be surprised if that works as well. Aflock. Seems okay. Their AoE is really good. Their single target is probably like just slightly better than okay. It's definitely the worst of the lock specs in my opinion right now. Their burst AoE is pretty good though, so if you're in a situation where you just need to do damage pretty quickly, you're able to get damage out pretty quickly, so. Yeah, what's up, Woodsy? Arcane Mage. I think it's strong. It's probably... It's so hard to tell, man, because just Mage gets changed every week. I bet you by the time you're watching this, if you're not watching this on Twitch, I bet you this has already changed for the better or worse, but I think the best Mage right now is Frost Mage. And I don't even think it's close. I think Frost Mage just does really good prow damage. It's super easy to play. Really good in AoE, but I think it just, you know, it can brawl by itself. It has all the defenses. Yeah, I think Frost is better than Arcane, but I'll go ahead and put Fire in Seems Okay. I haven't really seen it this week. No one's playing it, but I've seen some people rate it down here and like Dedge and Not Great needs buffs, but I think it's probably okay still. Frost DK. So I think Frost DK is really, really strong. I've been playing a lot of this myself. It's really fun. It's like 4 or 5 buttons. I think I learned it in about a week. I think it's really good in these dungeons specifically, like Siege of Borealis, for example. You constantly have mobs that are running away from you, or else like you start a pull and you don't want to like get too close to a boss or something like that. So the Frost DK can just pull the mob, you know, where you want to group everything. And Yeah, they run on 45-second cooldowns. You can just basically have damage for every situation. You have like a group AMS now, which is kind of nice. You don't actually block the damage for everyone else, but it's just like a quick, under a minute AMS basically on everyone, just like a small shield. And you basically don't really need a healer. So this season you like really need healing, and for whatever reason, just DK doesn't really need a healer. So yeah, pretty strong. What is this tier list for exactly? M+. Just kind of my take on the beta. By the time M+ comes out, maybe all of this has changed, but yeah. Unholy. I think a lot of people put this behind Frost. I actually think it's a bit better than Frost. I don't really play Unholy, but every Unholy that I've seen is doing absurd AoE. They're doing it really quickly. Their single target seems really good, and they have all the same benefits as Frost. So I'd go ahead and put Unholy ahead. Arms Warrior seems okay. I ran with Luigi a little bit earlier today, and I think their AoE is worse than Fury. But overall, I think they're okay. I don't really know a lot about the spec, but their AoE seemed okay. Single target seemed okay. They're just kind of okay. Fury, I think the spec is really strong, actually. I don't really see many people playing it. I did run a couple of Crit Cake a couple weeks ago, and ever since then, I think they've only been buffed. And they were keeping up with the other DK specs. So, obviously, melee comp, they're not really going to synergize. If you end up running VDH, they're not really going to have a synergy for you. So that kind of puts them down a bit. But I think overall, the spec is strong. If you end up running like Bear, Mistweaver, Rogue, for an example, Fury Warrior is good. You could end up running some sort of melee comp. Assassination, I've seen people rate this really high. For me, it just seems okay. I've seen, like, earlier I saw someone put this, like, up here, and I don't think that's the case. I don't think Assassination is a very good M+ spec specifically. Typically, you have to, stop damage in between pulls, wait for the rogue to invis. I think chaining from pack to pack. Assassination is just not very good for that, and you have to go into stealth, right? As soon as you exit stealth, you have like empowered growths and ruptures, and if you can't get those off, then you're just doing no damage. So they're not really a tempo class. If you can get a stealth in between every single pull, they're pretty good. Their AoE right now is actually absurd. Their single target is kind of okay. I don't think it's like exceptional, but yeah, their AoE is like really, really strong as long as you're willing to just sit in between packs. Unless there's something that I haven't seen, I'm just putting them as seems okay. I think if you're going to bring a rogue, you're probably going to bring this. Unless for some reason you're chaining packs together, in which case I would play Subtlety. From what I understand, and once again, I haven't seen too many rogues on beta, but Sub is doing pretty good damage, but it feels really bad to play. I think they took away some of the fun play style, and people that are playing rogue just aren't really enjoying Sub. Boomy, not great. Their AoE is really good when they have cooldowns. When they don't have cooldowns, their AoE is not very good, and their single target's not very good. Yeah, from what I understand, their class trees feel really bad. Yeah, I don't really have much more to say on that, but not in a great situation. Demo Lock, really strong. I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Demo right now. It is leaning a little bit into the OP class tree Diabolist at the moment. I've got a feeling that will be nerfed. Actually, let me just go. I don't know. I don't want people to get the impression that it will be meta. I don't think it will necessarily be meta. But yeah, I think this is one of the hardest hitting specs in the game right now. Diabolist doing a lot of damage. And I think even when Diabolist is eventually nerfed, their other class tree or hero tree seems pretty good. They will lose a little bit of damage, but the playstyle doesn't change much. I think they're pretty strong. So, yeah, I think they're in a good place. Where's Destruction? Let's just go ahead and get this out of the way. This spec is absurd. Single target is crazy. AoE is crazy. Just everything about them is really, really good right now. You're pressing Rain of Fire and single target right now is just to cycle through your shards. Your procs feel really good. It's really impactful. It's really fast. It's actually really easy to miss some of your procs, just like how fast you're cycling through everything. Looking earlier, I was just doing like insane single target while pressing Rain of Fire. So Yeah, that right now, this will probably get nerfed. I think if anything, they do touch the hero tree, which directly impacts Demo. But yeah, if nothing changes right now, this will definitely be played. Which, if you watch any other tier lists that came up recently, you know everyone is fully aware of that. Ellie Shaman. Everyone's telling me this is dead. I think it's pretty strong though. I think this class was like far and beyond where any other class was last week, and I think the nerf kind of put them in line. If you don't end up running Shaman for healer, then you still get all the buffs and everything from Elemental. I think the issue is like hardly anyone plays Elemental, so that's why no one really sees it as being like a strong class. But if you're watching like a really good Elemental Shaman, you know, Petco, Bon, some of those players, I think they're still going to perform really well on it. Oh no, people in chat are saying Ellie does 0 damage. Did it really get gutted that much? I can't believe it got gutted that much. I guess I haven't seen it. Maybe I should put it in no clue. I guess other people would know better than me. Petco's commenced is dead. It was a 25% nerf. So he was doing like 1.6 million last week, and 25% is 400k. So that'd be 1.2, which is like kind of my baseline of where the other strong classes are right now that aren't busted. It's not strong now. All right. Chaz decided it's not strong. I'm not gonna put it in Dedge. I'm gonna put it in seems okay. I can't believe it would be dead. 25% puts it in my mind. It puts it in line. Yeah, Petco crying now while out DPSing a Frosty K. Yeah, that's kind of where I think too. All right, I'll tell you what. I'll put it up here. Seems okay, but it's on the verge of being strong. Yeah, I don't think not topping is an argument for it not being good. There's a lot of classes here that wouldn't necessarily top, but they're still pretty good. BM Hunter, I actually have no clue. I just saw a nerf come in for them, but I haven't seen a single person play it. I know when they first got reworked, I tried playing it a little bit, and I thought it was kind of boring. The reason I thought it was boring is just it played exactly like it did on live. Oh, I've got an incoming call from Tettles. All right, let's take this real quick. Hello, Tettles.
Yo, log in. Sub key.
Give me 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Tettles is trying to get me to play, so I'll speed this up. Yeah, this is not great. Devastation. I saw Cass playing a little bit. The Fire Tornado thing is doing pretty good damage, but the Fire Tornado thing is all AoE, so... Yeah, I think this is not great. It's also competing with 2 other Evoker specs that are doing pretty well. Enhancement, a lot of people are thinking this is dead, but I actually think this is pretty good. I don't know if it's better or worse than Ellie. I think it's probably a bit better. I'm going to put it in strong. I can see a situation where you end up running like a melee comp, and it's pretty good. I was doing a couple keys as Frosty K, and there's Enhancement Shaman in the group, and they were doing about the same as me, at least on single target. I think their AoE is a bit worse, but yeah, they're pretty good still, even after the nerfs. Feral Druid. I think this is pretty strong, actually. I've got kind of a small sample size, but of the Feral Druids that I've seen, I think there's some copium for Feral Druids being good. I don't think people will play them just because historically there's a perception that they don't really do anything for your key. All they're Mark of the Wild and, you know, just straight up damage, but I think they're fine. If you've got a friend that plays Feral Druid, and, you know, I think you can run some good keys with them. No issue there. Havoc is pretty strong. I don't think very many people have actually seen this in keys yet, but it can burst just as high as some of these like outrageous classes. Their single target is probably a little bit weaker than some of the top classes, but I think their overall in the key is actually going to keep up with everything else. Their burst AoE specifically is just like, it's really, really strong. Just the amount of damage they can just put out. Like first pull the dungeon is just, it's top tier. So I think the playstyle, from what I understand, is kind of boring, but Yeah, their damage is pretty good. Marks is pretty good. I think Marks and Serve are both pretty good. There might have been recent nerfs to these that I don't know about, but I think their damage is pretty good. Hunter historically has suffered from defensiveness, and that's not really the case anymore. They don't really give you a buff, so I don't know. People might just want to go raid buffs and ignore Hunter, but in a world without raid buffs, I think these are pretty good. Both are doing pretty strong damage, single target and AoE, so yeah, pretty good. Outlaw, I think this is dead. I think that's my first class I'm putting in Dej. It's pretty bad. Yeah, that thing needs to be buffed immediately. I think they keep aura buffing it, but it's not doing very good damage. Red Paladin, I think is actually really strong. I think it's bugged right now, and maybe this is going to move down. Right now, there's a bug that gives them Crusade perma 100% uptime in AoE, and that probably needs to get fixed. I think once that gets fixed, it goes to seems okay, but right now it's actually pretty strong. Not very many people playing it, so not a lot of people know about that, but their AoE is pretty good. Single target's pretty good. They are bugged, so yeah, that's the state they're in. Shadow, not great. I've seen a couple examples of Shadow Priest doing well in dungeons. I've seen a couple situations where like this, the stars align and they get like good boss damage or like a good pull, but in general, not great. Anytime I see them in a log, they're usually at the bottom. On top of that, they're like ninja pulling stuff in dungeons currently, so yeah, they've got some issues. Windwalker. So my Windwalker sample is basically Dabnel, and I think they actually seem okay. I don't think they're fantastic by any means, but I think they're definitely playable. They don't really stand out as something you would just de facto bring to the key, but yeah, their single target's pretty good. Windwalker tends to have pretty good single target. Their AoE's not bad. They can get their damage out pretty quick. I don't think it's quite as high as some of these other specs up here, but it's it's one or two buffs away from being playable. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I'm trying to take a quick look and see if there's anything else that looks off, but I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm happy with it. So, anyways, that's my tier list. That'll probably change in a week from now when they do a bunch of buffs and nerfs, but yep, there we go.